Welcome to Project BeepBeep on the Average Guy's Restoration blog. The speed cooling radiator by Engineered Cooling Products. I just test fit it. Haven't got the shroud test fit yet. I had to remove the battery tray and do some modifications. You can see here to the flange, the radiator flange, to clear the battery tray. Also, if you can see right down there, shine a little light, I had to clear the inner fender well lip and do a modification there. When I take the radiator out, I'll show you the modifications and what I had to do, and then we'll do a video on test fitting the shroud and try to get this car back together. So here's the radiator out of the car after my final test fit. You can see the relief here. It's on the passenger side to clear the inner fender lip, and then here to clear the battery tray. Used a angle grinder with a 60 grit wheel. Bought that wheel brand new last night and it's about worn out. So this is a Mopar Performance radiator shroud, and you can see at least over here in the battery tray area, I guess the factory radiator relieves all the way to there. I didn't have to relieve that far. And then of course here, I would imagine a factory radiator relieves all of that. I didn't have to go that far. Took off the minimal amount. So now what I'm going to do is put the radiator in the car, test fit the shroud, mark it, and then drill it. And I'm going to go to Ace Hardware. I don't know if I'm going to get nylock hardware and put it together, or clip nuts, the little clip nuts, the C-clips that go on the radiator, have a nut on the back. Haven't decided, but once I get it drilled and figure out what size hardware I need, I'll go down to Ace and figure that one out. So we'll have more later. It's been a long journey. You can see here there's some files on the ground. I had to file about a 32nd of an inch off of the bottom mounting brackets to get this thing to line up. This thing is so tight fitting in there. I had talked to the owner of Speed Cooling. The guy's name is Frank, before I ordered. I'm going to call him back and say, I'd like to know what B-body Mopar this radiator fits, because it sure doesn't fit this one. But the radiator is in, and I've got all the mounting finger tight. The battery tray I didn't install, but I have clearance. The battery tray is clearing. And what we're going to do is, my lovely assistant and I, we're going to test fit the shroud and get it into position and make sure the fan rotates without hitting anything. And then I'm going to mark the center. So I'm going to mark the center on the shroud and the center here on the radiator. Then the radiator comes back out for the 67th time, and I have to punch the mounting hole locations, drill it, and then run down to Ace Hardware and figure out how I'm going to mount it. I'm kind of leaning towards nylock hardware, just a simple nylock and a bolt and 2 washers. It's more of a pain putting the shroud on when you do that, but the shroud's never coming off. The factory used clip nuts, and I may go with clip nuts. If they look pretty healthy down there at Ace Hardware and they've got what I want, then I'll go with clip nuts like the factory did. So we're going to test fit this, get the radiator back out, drill it, run down to Ace, and then there'll be another video. Okay, back from the hardware store. Went ahead with grade 8 automotive 5/16 bolts, 5/16 washers, and I'm going to go ahead and use 5/16 nylock or kep nuts, depending on which mechanical engineer you talk to. It is drilled, and everything should drop in. Let's try over here. By the way, I didn't rehearse this. So. And it's in. And I've got a little bit of movement left and right, which was the way Chrysler intended. So we can center it on the fan. Hopefully it's right. Now, am I putting everything back together? No. If you've been watching all my BeepBeep videos, you know that if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. So we're going to fill this up with the garden hose and set it out in the warm Arizona sun for a couple of hours and make sure this radiator doesn't leak. Then we'll put the car back together. While this thing's baking in the sun for its leak test, I'm going to go under the hood here with the battery tray out. Yeah, BeepBeep is not a show car, not a trailer queen. But I have some special, believe it or not, it's glass polish. And I don't know what these little black specks are. I don't know if when they undercoated the car, I had them all over here under the hood, and I used glass polish to get them off, and then of course put a coat of dry wash on there. I'm going to go ahead and glass polish this metal right through here and try to get some of these little black specks off. Glass polish where the battery tray is. Put a thin coat of dry wash, and then I'm not putting the battery tray in because it's nice to have the convenience to reach down here and torque down the shroud. So hopefully the next video you'll see the radiator and shroud and hoses and transmission lines all hooked up and ready for antifreeze. Well, I'm getting close. I'm done for the next day or two. This is Friday night. My Saturday's pretty packed, but maybe Sunday I'll get an hour or two in. So close to having it done. Basically transmission lines, the bottom radiator hose, put the battery back in. I did clean up all the metal or all the paint and metal work back here the best I could. Believe it or not, that battery tray is now clean. It looks bad. It's 50 years old, but I took all kinds of gunk out of the battery tray. The nylock hardware kind of looks like it's right at home. If you want to come over here with the camera. So, you know, it looks good. It's grade 8 hardware. I'm very happy with the way it fit. And if you look down here at the fan, I've got no rub. And I'm about a ½ centimeter off center. And that's the best I can get. If you look down here, see how far over the Mopar Performance shroud is to this edge of the flange? That's as far over as I can get it. And then if you look here, I'm pretty much flush against that flange. So that's as good as it's going to get. I could do a lot more work by making oval holes. ½ centimeter, I don't think anybody would notice anyway. And it's not going to bug me. Next video, we'll see if we have coolant in the radiator. Thanks.